within the Whispering Bazaar tastes of stale jokes and ozone, a peculiar tang that settles on your tongue and refuses to dissipate. One moment, a clammy warmth clings to your skin, like a moist hand pressed against your neck the next. An icy dryness pricks at your exposed forearms, chilling the very marrow in your bones. You shiver, but not from the cold alone. The constant, disorienting shift, a testament to the bazaar's capricious nature, or perhaps a byproduct of the lingering magical fallout from the War of Wordplay. Beneath your worn boots, the ground yields with a soft, spongy give. It's not earth, not pavement, but a sprawling, ancient mosaic of discarded punchlines and broken metaphors, compacted over centuries into a bizarre, damp moss. Each step is a silent squelch, a subtle reminder of the verbal detritus that underpins this reality. The sky above, visible in fractured glimpses between the precariously stacked stalls, is the color of curdled milk, a bruised, off-white expanse that never quite brightens, never truly darkens. It merely shifts in opacity, hinting at unseen forces beyond the bazaar's confines. You navigate the narrow lanes, your gaze sweeping over the impossible wares. Here, a stall displays clocks that tick backward, their minute hands racing counterclockwise, promising a return to forgotten moments. There, rows of crystal phials shimmer with bottled laughter, a vibrant, effervescent amber liquid that, when shaken, causes a cascade of disembodied giggles to escape, dissolving into the air like sugar on the tongue. Further on, a collection of intricately carved wooden footwear lies stacked haphazardly, each pair designed to permit movement only in circles, a dizzying proposition that makes your stomach churn just contemplating it. Your hands, calloused and stained with chlorophyll, instinctively brush against a potted vine trailing from an awning, its leaves a vibrant, almost neon green. A faint, almost imperceptible tremor runs through the plant, a silent greeting that only you seem to notice. "Easy, little one," you murmur, your voice a soft rumble, a soothing counterpoint to the cacophony of the market. You are a root tender, after all, and your world revolves around the silent language of sentient flora and architectural biomatter. Your goal, your singular purpose, is to cultivate a symbiosis between them, to weave life into the very bones of the world. A vendor, whose entire head is an overturned, floral-patterned umbrella, gestures wildly with a long, spindly arm. His voice, a series of rapid-fire chirps and whistles, is directed at a bewildered potential customer, attempting to haggle over a jar of yesterday's regret. You smile faintly, a brief, fleeting curve of your lips. You understand the umbrella-headed vendor better than most. You've spent your life listening to the subtle communications of things that most consider inanimate. This empathy, this tendency to anthropomorphize plant life, is both your greatest strength and, your most profound flaw, leading you to delay necessary pruning, to nurture what others might see as mere weeds. Your fingers idly trace a leaf vein, feeling the surge of internal sap, a vibrant pulse within the silent green. This plant, this delicate life, needs a new anchor point, a trellis to climb before its tendrils become brittle and break under their own weight. The thought of pruning feels like a betrayal, a surgical act against a living, breathing entity. You sigh, the expelled breath a small cloud in the ever-shifting air. This internal debate is a constant companion, a quiet hum beneath the bluster of the bazaar. As you step past the umbrella-headed vendor, the ground beneath your feet gives way with an unusual elasticity, like stepping onto a trampoline made of forgotten jests. You stumble, catching yourself on a rough-hewn wooden post, supporting a stall laden with glass eyes that blink in unison. A burst of bottled laughter, shaken by the impact, erupts from a nearby cart, the sound sharp and surprisingly painful in your ears, as if reality itself is mocking your clumsiness. Then it happens. A silence descends, not a true absence of sound, but a sudden, chilling cessation of meaning. The chirps of the umbrella vendor become just noise, the blinking eyes mere glass, the laughter a mechanical release of air. The world, for a terrifying instant, flattens, losing its vibrant, peculiar dimensionality. You feel it in your bones, a stark, undeniable truth. The very fabric of existence, the underlying concept that gives coherence to all these impossibilities, is merely an elaborate construct, a colossal, overarching pun without a punchline. There is no inherent meaning, only an endless series of jokes, each leading nowhere. This is the existential punchline. It hits you with the force of a physical blow, a sudden, horrifying clarity that dissolves into pure, unadulterated silliness. Your hands go numb. The verdant leaves you were just caressing seem to lose their life, becoming inert, simple chlorophyll and cellulose, devoid of any inner spark. Your heart, which moments ago beat with the rhythm of the bazaar, now feels like a confused drum out of sync. Your life's goal, to cultivate symbiosis between sentient flora and architectural biomatter, suddenly feels absurd. What symbiosis can there be if the sentience itself is just a cosmic jest? If the architectural biomatter is merely a punchline waiting for a setup that will never arrive? A wave of icy dryness sweeps over you, raising goosebumps on your arms, quickly followed by a clammy warmth that makes your skin crawl. You fight the urge to retch. The thought, the terrifying realization that all your efforts, all your careful tending, might be nothing more than an elaborate game played by an indifferent universe, threatens to unravel your very core. You have always found purpose in growth, in the delicate balance of life and structure. Now that purpose feels like a fragile illusion, a whispered lie. You close your eyes for a long moment, trying to recenter yourself, to pull meaning back from the precipice of non-existence. When you open them, the bazaar is still there, still a riot of impossible sights and sounds, but it's subtly different. The colors seem less vibrant, the sounds a little hollower. The inherent absurdity, which once felt charming, now feels like a threat, a constant reminder of the meaninglessness you just glimpsed. Your gaze falls upon a small leather pouch hanging from a string around your neck, the pocket of infinite non-sequiturs. You've had it for as long as you can remember, a curious heirloom. You never think much of it, beyond its peculiar habit of producing random objects at the most inconvenient times. You reach in, a nervous habit. Your fingers brush against something soft, then hard, then unexpectedly wet. You pull out a perfectly preserved existential dread, no bigger than your thumb, yet radiating an undeniable weight of cosmic despair. It quivers in your palm, a miniature vortex of anxiety. Before you can react, it transforms into a perfectly roasted chicken, still sizzling, that immediately begins reciting bad poetry in a reedy, nasal voice. Oh, the sky, a ceiling vast and gray. Why do chickens cross the road today? To escape the oven's fiery hold, their crispy tails forever told. You hastily shove the chicken back into the pocket. The immediate, absurd distraction pulls you, momentarily, from the existential void. This pouch, this ridiculous, unpredictable object, is a constant source of baffling observations and entirely unrelated items. Perhaps, you muse darkly, it is the purest distillation of the existential punchline itself. As you stand there reeling, a figure emerges from the swirling crowd, moving with an unnerving grace that cuts through the market's chaos. It's Rowan Stone, your mentor, her elaborate coiffure a testament to the meticulous standards of the Gilded Courtship Chronicle. She is dressed in robes woven with gold thread that catch the curdled light, each stitch a silent declaration of status. Her face, usually a mask of composed diplomacy, holds a hint of something uncharacteristic: urgency. There you are, my dear, Rowan says, her voice a low, resonant hum, like a perfectly tuned bioresonator. The clammy warmth that had settled over you momentarily intensifies, as if in agreement with her presence. I've been looking for you. The bioregulators are making an unscheduled inspection of the sector you're cultivating. And there's talk. You feel a familiar knot tighten in your stomach. The Viridian Bloom Accord, the sacred text of your profession, necessitates strict adherence to growth schedules. Deviations, even for apparent improvements, attract the scrutiny of the bioregulators, those bureaucratic arbiters of botanical orthodoxy, who prioritize stability over innovative cultivation. Your heart sinks, you know, with a certainty that chills you more than any fluctuating temperature, that your recent experiments in coaxing symbiotic phosphorescence from the architectural lichen of Sector Beta will not meet their stringent, unimaginative standards. You had anthropomorphized the lichen, of course, believing its shy glow was a sign of nascent sentience, delaying its integration into the rigid accord timetable. Talk, you ask, the word feeling oddly brittle in your mouth, still reverberating with the echo of meaninglessness. The idea of the bioregulators, with their clipboards and their unwavering belief in quantifiable growth, inspecting your deeply personal work feels like an invasion, a violation of the delicate trust you've built with your botanical charges. Rowan's eyes, the color of polished river stones, hold a flicker of concern. Whispers, my dear, about your unconventional methods, and about the materiel requisitions. Your sibling, bless their combat engineer's heart, is requesting a significant amount of specialized root-anchoring compounds for their frontline fortifications. The regulators are questioning the necessity, suggesting diversion of resources. Your sibling, far from the bizarre whimsy of the bazaar, your sibling is embroiled in the grim, absurd reality of the War of Wordplay, a protracted dispute where reality itself is warped by the strategic deployment of clever puns and elaborate double entendres. They rely on the materiel you requisition, the specialized biocompounds that help them stabilize their shifting defenses against the semantic onslaughts of the opposing faction. The thought of their struggle, so tangible and immediate, makes the abstract terror of the existential punchline momentarily recede. Your work, for all its potential meaninglessness, still has real-world consequences, still protects your blood. The root-anchoring compounds are vital, you state, your voice firm, pushing back against the lingering doubt. Without them, their forward emplacements will crumble under the next wave of rhetorical artillery. The bioregulators don't understand the exigencies of frontline engineering. Indeed, Rowan acknowledges, her gaze sweeping over the chaotic beauty of the bazaar, her expression unreadable. But their understanding is not what matters, only their compliance. And their compliance is vital to my current endeavor. She lowers her voice, leaning closer, and the clammy warmth becomes almost suffocating. The Gilded Courtship Chronicle requires the absolute absence of scandal. My efforts to secure a prestigious alliance through marriage for my ward, a delicate dance of diplomacy and strategic rhetoric, are nearing their culmination. Any perceived infraction by my protégé, however minor, could unravel months of painstaking negotiation. You swallow a dry, uncomfortable gulp. Rowan's ambition, her meticulous dedication to political maneuvering, has always been a stark contrast to your own earthier pursuits. You admire her acumen, but sometimes her world feels as alien as the shifting contents of your pocket. Her ward's marriage alliance, a cornerstone of the Chronicle, is meant to bring stability to the fractured political landscape, perhaps even quell some of the absurdity of the War of Wordplay. You understand the necessity, but your plants are calling to you. Their silent pleas for unconventional care, more insistent than any political decree. I understand, mentor, you say, the word feeling heavy on your tongue. But my phosphorescent lichen experiment is showing unprecedented symbiotic potential. It could revolutionize architectural biomatter, make the structures themselves intelligent, responsive. It's an improvement, not a deviation. Rowan's lips thin, a delicate line. An improvement that ignores the Accord's growth schedules. The bioregulators prioritize stability, my dear, not innovation. Not if that innovation disrupts the established order. They see your methods as dangerously unpredictable, as a threat to the controlled ecosystem. They see you as unpredictable, her gaze locks with yours, a flicker of genuine worry in her eyes. They've sent Atticus Chuckles to oversee the inspection. The name hangs in the air, a discordant note in the bazaar's symphony of strangeness. Atticus Chuckles, the stone singer, a figure of myth and dread to those who operate outside the rigid confines of the accord. He is rumored to have the ability to calcify living things with a single, perfectly worded phrase, to turn vibrant flora into inert stone with the power of his voice. His goal, it is whispered, is to find a sanctuary of peace, but his methods are often seen as an anathema to life itself. The temperature shifts violently again, from icy dryness to an oppressive, humid warmth, as if the air itself recoils at the mention of his name. You feel a prickle of unease, a cold dread seeping into your veins. Atticus Chuckles and his pursuit of peace through eradication of the unpredictable would clash violently with your entire philosophy, your very being as a root tender. He would see your beloved phosphorescent lichen, your anthropomorphized flora as aberrations, deviations to be pruned not just for stability, but for stillness, for silence, for stone. Your core goal, to cultivate symbiosis, suddenly feels not just meaningless, but actively antagonistic to the forces gathering against you. The existential punchline whispers in the back of your mind. What if stillness is the only peace? What if meaninglessness is the ultimate truth? Atticus Chuckles, you repeat, the words barely a whisper. The thought of him laying his calcifying gaze upon your canopy commons grove, your secret sanctuary, the locus of your profound personal connection, sends a fresh wave of ice through your blood. You guard that grove jealously, a place where the biomatter truly sings, a place of vibrant, unrestricted growth that would make any bioregulator faint. He arrived this morning, Rowan confirms, her voice now a low warning. And he's already asking questions, particularly about the unusual vibrancy of certain sectors and the source of the unquantifiable atmospheric resonance he claims to detect near your main cultivation area. She sighs, a sound of deep exasperation. He speaks in riddles always, but his intent is clear. He seeks conformity. He seeks a peace born of silence. You clench your jaw. Silence. For you, silence in the botanical world is a death knell, a sign of decay, of life untended. The clammy warmth returns, clinging to your skin, a phantom embrace of the world's discomfort. You must protect your work. You must protect your plants. And somehow, you must protect your sibling, whose fate on the front lines is tied to the strength of your requisitions, to your ability to navigate the bioregulators. And now, Atticus Chuckles. The absurd reality of the War of Wordplay, where words literally reshape landscapes, feels suddenly less humorous and more terrifying. If Atticus can use his stone singer abilities, his mastery of language, to enforce a rigid, silent peace, then your world, your very purpose, is at stake. This isn't just about a few phosphorescent lichens anymore. It's about the right to grow, to deviate, to find meaning in the unexpected. It's about the very definition of life and what it means to truly tend it. You nod, a slow, determined movement. I'll meet him. I'll explain the symbiosis. I'll make him understand. A flicker of defiance, a spark of stubborn life, pushes back against the nihilistic whispers of the existential punchline. Even if meaning is a joke, you will still tend your garden. Even if it's all just silliness, you will still cultivate beauty. Rowan gives a faint, almost imperceptible shake of her head. Be cautious, my dear. Atticus chuckles does not understand in the way you mean. He understands in the way a sculptor understands the stone, by imposing his will upon it, by chiseling away anything that does not fit his preconceived form. And remember the chronicle. Your reputation is entwined with mine. You offer a reassuring, if somewhat strained, smile. I will be discreet, mentor. I will uphold my duties, but I cannot abandon my charges. Your hand, still tingling from the encounter with the existential punchline, subconsciously touches the leather pouch around your neck. The roasted chicken inside lets out a particularly mournful couplet. The existential void, a culinary fright, better a good stew than eternal night. The sheer incongruity of it makes you almost laugh, a dry, humorless sound. Perhaps the pocket of infinite non-sequiturs is a perverse kind of anchor, a reminder that even in the face of grand, terrifying truths, absurdity persists. You leave Rowan, the clammy warmth of her presence dissipating, replaced by the ever-present, cycling temperature of the bazaar. Your path takes you towards the sector where the phosphorescent lichen experiment is underway. A sense of grim determination settling over you. You can almost feel Atticus Chuckle's gaze, a heavy weight, even from afar. You need to prepare not just for an inspection, but for a clash of ideals. You are a root tender. He is a stone singer. One seeks vibrant, growing life, the other, a tranquil, unchanging peace. And the War of Wordplay, with its subtle shifts in reality, ensures that such a clash will be anything but subtle. The journey to the bioarchitectural sector feels longer than usual, each step on the spongy ground weighted with apprehension. You pass a stall selling authentic future anxieties in ornate glass jars, each one pulsating with a dull, gray light. A vendor, whose face is a perpetually shifting kaleidoscope of emotions, tries to sell you a guaranteed cure for irony, but you merely shake your head. Irony, you reflect, might be the only true constant in this world. The air, cycling through its bizarre temperature fluctuations, seems to hum with an unspoken tension, a prelude to the confrontation ahead. You reach the entrance to Sector Beta, a massive, arcing bioarchway woven from ancient, gnarled timber that has been coaxed into a living, structural form. Here, the hum of the bazaar fades, replaced by the subtle rustling of leaves and the faint, rhythmic thrum of the biomatter's lifeblood pumping through unseen channels. This place, despite its accord-mandated rigidity, is a sanctuary for you, a place where you can truly engage with your calling. As you step inside, the gloom lifts. The walls of the archway glow with a soft, ethereal phosphorescence, your experimental lichen. Delicate tendrils of luminous green and silver trace intricate patterns across the biomatter, illuminating the space with a gentle, breathing light. The air here smells of damp earth and something indefinable, something clean and alive. You reach out, letting your fingers trace the glowing patterns. A soft pulse resonates beneath your touch, a faint vibration that seems to communicate contentment, a silent song of symbiotic growth. Beautiful, isn't it? You whisper, not to yourself, but to the lichen, to the very structure around you. You feel a profound connection, a sense of purpose reasserting itself against the creeping nihilism. Even if it's all a joke, the beauty is real, the life is real, the feeling is real. This is your defiance against the existential punchline. This is why you tend. A shadow falls over the glowing lichen. You turn, your heart giving a lurch. Atticus Chuckles stands silhouetted in the archway, a figure of imposing stillness. He is tall, lean, and dressed in simple, unadorned robes of gray, a stark contrast to Rowan's gilded finery or the bazaar's flamboyant chaos. His face is chiseled, almost severe, with eyes the color of flint, sharp and unnervingly perceptive. He holds no clipboard, no scanner, only a small, perfectly smooth river stone clutched in one hand. The fluctuating temperature around him seems to momentarily stabilize, settling into an unnervingly consistent, icy dryness. Unquantifiable atmospheric resonance, indeed, Atticus states, his voice a low, resonant baritone, smooth as polished granite, yet carrying an undercurrent of immense power. It is a voice that sounds like words becoming solid, like meaning taking physical form. You have allowed these deviations to flourish. You feel a wave of indignation, quickly tempered by a need for diplomacy. They are not deviations, Elder Chuckles. They are innovations. A symbiotic relationship between the architectural biomatter and the native phosphorescent lichen. The structures themselves will become more resilient, more responsive to environmental shifts. Atticus takes a step closer, his flint eyes sweeping over the glowing walls. Resilience born of chaos. Responsiveness born of sentiment. You anthropomorphize these organisms, do you not? You project your own desires onto their inert forms. The accusation stings, hitting directly at your flaw. They are not inert. They communicate, they feel, they respond. This phosphorescence is their language, their way of expressing a nascent sentience. You gesture passionately at the glowing patterns. To prune them, to force them into the rigid schedules of the Viridian Bloom Accord, would be to silence them, to kill a nascent form of life. Atticus's expression remains impassive, his gaze unwavering. The accord provides stability. Stability is peace. Peace, root tender, is what this world desperately needs. The war of wordplay rages precisely because of unchecked interpretations, uncontrolled deviations from established reality. Every pun, every double entendre, every semantic shift tears at the fabric of coherence. Your sentient flora is merely another variable, another potential destabilizer. He raises the smooth river stone in his hand. The gilded courtship chronicles struggles to maintain a semblance of order in the upper echelons, while the frontline engineers, like your sibling, battle an enemy whose weapons are literally words, literally reshaping their very environment. And you add to the noise with your phosphorescent poetry. The mention of your sibling, caught in the brutal reality of the war, momentarily deflates your fervor. He wasn't wrong about the severity of the conflict. My sibling needs these resources. The root-anchoring compounds I requisition are vital to their survival against the semantic shifts of the enemy's wordplay. My work here, my innovations, could lead to stronger, self-repairing fortifications, reducing the need for constant resupply. Or Atticus counters, his voice laced with an undeniable logic that chills you to the bone. Your innovations could introduce new vulnerabilities. A plant, persuaded by your sentimentality to grow in an unorthodox manner, could collapse a vital structural integrity, opening a breach for the enemy's rhetorical onslaught. Sentiment, root tender, is a luxury we cannot afford in these volatile times. Stability, order, these are the foundations of peace. He extends his hand, pointing at a particularly vibrant cluster of lichen. This is not symbiosis. This is sentimentality leading to deviation. And deviation leads to chaos. A sudden, sharp burst of bottled laughter from outside the sector, likely jostled by a passing cart, echoes through the bio-archway, a jarring reminder of the bazaar's incessant absurdity. The temperature around you becomes a dizzying swirl, hot and cold, battling for dominance on your skin. You would prune away beauty for the sake of sterile order. You challenge, your voice rising, pushing back against his cold logic. You would silence nascent life because it doesn't fit your definition of peace. Atticus's eyes gleam, a hard, unyielding light. I would establish true peace, a peace that transcends the fleeting, chaotic nature of this bazaar, a peace that is not merely the absence of conflict, but the cessation of the very capacity for it. A world where reality is stable, predictable, immutable, where words do not bleed into form, where puns do not warp perception. A world of stone-like certainty. The core misunderstanding between you is laid bare. You seek a peace born of dynamic, harmonious growth, of vibrant, interconnected life, even if that life is unpredictable. He seeks a peace born of static, unyielding order, of silent, unchanging permanence. Your goals, both seemingly reasonable, you to cultivate symbiosis, him to find a sanctuary of peace, are fundamentally opposed. Your methods, a nurturing hand, clash with his, a calcifying touch. And what of meaning then, you ask? The existential punchline whispering again, this time with a perverse echo of his own logic. If all is static, if all is silent, what purpose is left? What is left to tend? Atticus almost smiles, a cold, humorless movement of his lips. Purpose is a self-inflicted wound, root tender. Meaning is a construct. Peace is the only absolute. And I will achieve it, even if it means turning every whispering leaf into solid stone. He turns to leave, his gray robes blending into the shadows. The bioregulators will return in 3 cycles. By then, I expect to see these deviations integrated into the accord, or removed entirely. The icy dryness returns with a vengeance as he passes, leaving you shivering in the suddenly oppressive silence of your glowing sector. You watch him go, a knot of fear and fury tightening in your chest. The clammy warmth returns, a suffocating blanket. The glow of the lichen, so recently a source of comfort, now feels like a beacon drawing unwanted attention, a target. You are caught between the rigid mandates of the Accord, the political machinations of Rowan, the brutal reality of the War of Wordplay affecting your sibling, and now the unyielding will of Atticus Chuckles. Your struggle is not just for your plants, but for the very soul of this world, for the right of beauty and unpredictability to exist alongside order. 3 cycles, not much time. You touch the phosphorescent lichen again, feeling its gentle pulse. To prune it, to force it into dormancy, would be to betray it. But to let it flourish openly would be to invite the calcifying touch of the stone singer. You are a root tender. You must find another way. The next 2 cycles pass in a blur of feverish work and desperate introspection. You spend hours among your phosphorescent lichen, trying to find a way to make it conform to the accord without sacrificing its nascent sentience. You experiment with bioluminescent suppressants, with light-filtering membranes, anything to dim its visible defiance. Each adjustment feels like a compromise, a small cut to your own soul. The fluctuating temperature is a constant torment, mirroring your internal turmoil, one moment clammy with despair, the next dry with the burning heat of frustration. Rowan visits you twice, her gilded robes rustling with unspoken concern. She brings news of the gilded courtship chronicle, of delicate negotiations teetering on the brink. The alliance is within reach, my dear, she states on her second visit, her voice soft. But the slightest misstep, the smallest whisper of insubordination, it will be shattered. The bioregulators are already reporting on Atticus Chuckles' observations. Your siblings' materiel requisitions have been put on provisional hold. The news about your sibling sends a fresh wave of panic through you. Without those root-anchoring compounds, their fortifications are vulnerable. You can almost see the semantic explosions tearing through their defenses, the very ground beneath them shifting and twisting. The weight of responsibility presses down on you, heavy and suffocating. You finally settle on a complex system of light-diffusing biofilters, a compromise that would dim the lichen's phosphorescence to a barely perceptible glow during the inspection, allowing it to flourish unrestrained in darkness. It felt like a small act of defiance, a way to protect your charges without directly confronting Atticus. You were proud of your ingenuity, of finding a path that honored both the accord and the life you tended. Your anthropomorphized lichen seemed to hum with silent gratitude, its faint glow a secret between you. On the morning of the 3rd cycle, The clammy warmth of the bazaar is unusually oppressive, clinging to your clothes and making your skin feel slick. You wait in Sector Beta, surrounded by your carefully dimmed phosphorescent lichen. Your heart thrums a nervous rhythm against your ribs. Atticus Chuckles arrives, flanked by two stern-faced bioregulators, their faces impassive behind their standard-issue visors. Rowan, her expression meticulously neutral, stands a little apart, observing. Atticus's flint eyes sweep over the dimly lit bioarchway. He steps closer, his river stone clutched in hand. He runs a finger along a section of biomatter, his touch chilling. The phosphorescence is diminished, he observes, his voice betraying no emotion. You have complied with the accord. A wave of relief washes over you, momentarily displacing the clammy warmth with an icy tremor. You almost allow yourself a small, triumphant smile. I have integrated a system of light-diffusing biofilters, Elder chuckles. The lichen continues to flourish, but within acceptable visual parameters. Atticus turns to you, his gaze unnervingly intense. Flourish, you say. He steps to a section of the wall you had particularly encouraged, a place where a small, glowing bloom of lichen had promised a breakthrough in self-repairing organic architecture. Or merely survive. He raises his hand, the smooth river stone gleaming. Suddenly, a tendril of the phosphorescent lichen, the very one you had spent hours coaxing, the one you had anthropomorphized as a shy, delicate bloom, lashes out. It wraps itself around Atticus's wrist, glowing brightly, defying the filters, as if enraged by his proximity, by his judgment. You gasp, your relief turning to horror. Betrayal. The word echoes in your mind, sharp and sudden. Your flaw, your tendency to anthropomorphize plant life and delay necessary pruning, had not only been exposed, but weaponized against you. This lichen, which you believed you had nurtured, had rebelled, exposing your defiance in the most dramatic way possible. Atticus, with a grimace of distaste, pulls his hand back, severing the tendril with a sharp twist. The severed piece falls to the ground, still glowing defiantly, before slowly dimming. The bioregulators stiffen, their hands going to the energy pruners at their belts. A rebellious organism, Atticus states, his voice colder than the deepest winter, the icy dryness around him intensifying, sucking the warmth from the air. Untamed, unpredictable. As I said, he turns to the bioregulators. This sector is in violation. The root tender has proven herself unable to maintain accord standards. Her methods present a clear and present danger to the stability of the bioarchitectural infrastructure, and by extension, to the stability of the region itself. Rowan steps forward, her voice a tense whisper. Elder chuckles. Surely there is a compromise. This is an isolated incident, a mere anomaly. Atticus cuts her off, his gaze fixing on you. No anomaly, a direct consequence of unchecked sentimentality. And now, the materiel requisitions for the frontline engineers will be permanently frozen. The Gilded Courtship Chronicle will be notified of this incident. The words hit you like a physical blow. Your sibling, their safety, Rowan's alliance, all shattered by your flaw, by a single sentient tendril of lichen that you had foolishly believed you understood. The clammy warmth of betrayal spreads through your chest, mixing with the icy grip of fear for your sibling. You see the bioregulators moving, preparing to dismantle your work, to silence your glowing plants forever. As they advance, a memory, sharp and vivid, slices through the present moment, recontextualizing everything. You are a child, no older than 7, kneeling in the small, overgrown patch behind your family's dwelling. Your hands are grubby with soil. A tiny sapling, barely more than a stick with a few tender leaves, shivers in the perpetual gloom of the curdled milk sky. It had been a gift from your sibling, a sapling from a rare, ancient tree that grew on the edge of the canopy commons, a tree you both loved. But the sapling had withered, its leaves turning brown, its small trunk weak. You had cried, convinced it was dying. Your sibling, then a gangly teenager, had tried to comfort you, telling you it was just a plant, but you had refused to believe it. You had pressed your ear to its bark, convinced you could hear a faint, struggling pulse. You had spoken to it, whispered promises of growth and protection. You had watered it, sheltered it, even read poetry to it, much to your sibling's amusement. And slowly, miraculously, the sapling had revived, its leaves unfurling, its small trunk strengthening. It had been then that you understood. Plants weren't just inert matter. They heard, they felt, they responded. That particular sapling, now a magnificent tree, stood in your secret grove in the canopy commons, a living monument to your profound connection, a silent witness to a promise made to a child's heart that no life should be abandoned, that every living thing deserved to be tended, to be heard, to be understood. The memory fades, leaving you with a fresh wave of understanding and a renewed, fierce resolve. It wasn't just a flaw, this anthropomorphizing. It was the root of your entire being, born from a moment of profound, innocent connection, a promise to a dying thing, and to your sibling who had given it to you. The betrayal of the lichen, then, was not a betrayal of you, but a tragic misunderstanding, a reactive fear against the stone singer's cold presence. It was merely responding in its own way, just as you had always believed it would. No, you shout, the word echoing in the suddenly silent archway. You will not prune them. You will not silence them. The bioregulators pause, surprised by your sudden outburst. Atticus chuckles, fixes you with an unnerving stare. You defy the accord, root tender. You defy order itself. I defy your definition of order, you retort, your voice shaking but resolute. Order without life is death. Stability without growth is stagnation. You speak of peace, but you seek a graveyard. You glance at Rowan, her face a mask of horrified disbelief, then back at Atticus. I will not let you destroy this, or jeopardize my sibling's life on the front lines for the sake of your sterile peace. Atticus chuckles, takes a slow, deliberate step towards you, the icy dryness radiating from him like a physical force. Then you leave me no choice. You and your uncontrolled flora are a threat to the accord, to the chronicle, to the very fabric of this world, which is already fraying under the constant barrage of chaotic language. Suddenly, the floor beneath your feet, the mosaic of discarded punchlines and broken metaphors, begins to hum, vibrating with an unsettling intensity. The peculiar temperature fluctuations intensify to a dizzying degree, swinging wildly from Arctic cold to scorching heat in mere seconds, making the air shimmer. The entire sector seems to groan, the biomatter shifting and groaning under an unseen pressure. The war of wordplay is escalating, Rowan whispers, her eyes wide with alarm. The semantic shifts are becoming too powerful. Reality itself is struggling to cohere. Atticus chuckles, gaze hardens. Precisely. And these deviations only add to the instability. The world is at risk, root tender. And your sentimentality is a luxury we can no longer afford. He raises the river stone, a grim, determined glint in his eyes. You know, with a chilling certainty, that he intends to use his stone singer abilities to calcify not just the phosphorescent lichen, but perhaps the entire sector, and you along with it, into inert stone. The fate of the world, a concept that had seemed abstract just moments ago, suddenly feels terrifyingly real, tangible in the shifting ground and the erratic temperature. The uncontrolled flow of language, amplified by the war of wordplay, is tearing at the seams of reality. The existential punchline, it seems, wasn't just a philosophical joke. It was a prophecy. You instinctively reach for the leather pouch around your neck, the pocket of infinite non-sequiturs. Its unpredictable nature, its ability to pull forth baffling observations and entirely unrelated items might be your only chance. It is chaos, yes, but perhaps chaos can fight chaos. You won't succeed, Atticus, you say, your voice firm, echoing with a newfound resolve. You will not turn life into stone. Not here, not while I stand. The tension in the air is palpable. A taut string stretched to its breaking point. The fate of your plants, your sibling, Rowan's alliance, and indeed the very coherence of the world now rests on your shoulders, on your willingness to fight for the right of growth against the imposition of sterile peace. The battle lines are drawn, not with conventional weapons, but with words, with will, and with the unpredictable contents of a small leather pouch. The ground beneath your feet buckles, the mosaic of old jokes rippling like disturbed water. A violent shudder runs through Sector Beta, cracking the biomatter walls. Dust, smelling of ancient irony and decaying puns, rains down from the ceiling. The temperature fluctuations become a torment, a dizzying assault of extreme heat and cold that makes your teeth ache and your skin crawl. This isn't just the war of wordplay escalating. It's the very world recoiling from the stress, reality itself beginning to tear at the seams. Atticus chuckles, takes another step, his face grim, eyes fixed on you. The smooth river stone in his hand begins to glow with a faint, gray light, radiating an aura of absolute stillness. "This is the cost of your unpredictability, root tender," he states, his voice low, but cutting through the groaning environment. "The world is collapsing because of unchecked variables, uncontrolled narrative threads. My peace is the only salvation." You stand your ground, your heart thrumming with a mixture of fear and adrenaline. The luminous tendrils of the phosphorescent lichen, no longer dimmed by your filters, pulse with an angry, defiant glow, responding to the threat, to your surge of protective energy. You feel their silent plea, their desperate struggle for life against the encroaching stillness. "Your peace is a tomb," you shout, the words echoing through the groaning bioarchway. You plunge your hand into the pocket of infinite non-sequiturs, not knowing what you will pull out, but desperate for anything to counter the stone singer's calcifying power. Your fingers brush against something soft, then hard, then surprisingly sharp. You pull out a perfectly formed, miniature philosophical dilemma, neatly bound with twine, which immediately unravels into a cascade of rhetorical questions. If a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to pun about it, does it still exist? Is a double entendre truly double if its meaning is singular? What is the sound of one hand clapping if that hand is made of irony? The questions dissipate into the chaotic air, briefly confusing the bioregulators, who exchange glances of bewilderment. Atticus merely narrows his eyes, a distraction of semantic absurdity. Useless. He points the glowing river stone at the largest cluster of phosphorescent lichen. Stasis. Coagulate. Immobile. His words hit the glowing lichen with the force of a physical blow, a wave of gray energy washing over the vibrant green. You watch in horror as the delicate tendrils begin to stiffen, to lose their brilliant glow, turning dull and brittle like dead coral. The biomatter itself groans in agony. "No," you scream, feeling the connection, the life force, being brutally severed. You plunge your hand back into the pocket. This time, you pull out a perfectly sculpted miniature grievance, which immediately expands into a full-sized, complaining bureaucrat, complete with spectacles and a ledger, who begins loudly protesting. "This is an unscheduled calcification. My paperwork for this sector is not filed correctly. Where is the triplicate form for uncontrolled semantic destabilization?" The bureaucrat's high-pitched wails momentarily distract Atticus, who flinches, his concentration broken. The wave of gray energy falters, and the calcification on the lichen pauses, leaving a patch of gray against the vibrant green. Rowan, seizing the moment, steps forward, her voice surprisingly strong. Elder chuckles. This disruption is attracting unwanted attention from the gilded courtship. We are on the precipice of the alliance. Further chaos could unravel centuries of delicate diplomacy. Atticus ignores her, his gaze returning to you, now filled with a cold fury. You cannot fight order with chaos, root tender. Not indefinitely. He takes a deep breath, the air around him crackling with suppressed power. Silence, stillness, stone. You brace yourself, the words hitting you directly this time, a chilling weight on your chest. You gasp for air, feeling your own limbs begin to stiffen, a strange petrification spreading from your fingertips. Your vision blurs, the world tilts, desperation claws at you. You plunge your hand into the pocket for a third time, knowing this is your last chance. This time, you pull out a perfectly roasted chicken, still sizzling, that immediately begins reciting bad poetry. Oh, the stone singer, cold and grim, seeks a peace that's built on him. But life, dear friends, it finds a way to cluck and strut and save the day. The chicken, absurdly, flings itself at Atticus's face, flapping its roasted wings. The sheer indignity, the unexpectedness of a poetic poultry assault, breaks his concentration entirely. His incantation shatters, the gray energy dissipating. The petrification on your body recedes, leaving you gasping, your muscles aching, but alive. Atticus roars in frustration, batting the chicken away. It lands with a thump, still reciting, before dissolving into a pile of perfectly seasoned breadcrumbs. Enough of this semantic anarchy, he thunders, abandoning his calcifying words for a more direct approach. He lunges at you, swift and unyielding, intending to wrest the pocket from your neck. You react instinctively, dodging his charge, the clammy warmth suddenly giving you an unexpected burst of agility. You grab a dangling tendril of uncalcified phosphorescent lichen, pulling yourself upwards, scaling the biomatter wall with surprising speed, your root-tender skills proving invaluable. The lichen pulses under your hands, offering purchase, lending its strength to yours. Atticus, surprised by your nimble ascent, pauses for a moment, then points his river stone at the growing fissure in the ceiling of Sector Beta, exacerbated by the ongoing semantic war outside. Collapse, fragments, dust. A section of the bioarchway above you groans, the living timber beginning to crumble, raining down debris. You scramble higher, desperate, the icy dryness of the air stinging your eyes. You glance down to see Rowan shielding herself, the bioregulators looking panicked. The structure is failing. The entire sector is about to collapse. You'll destroy us all, you cry, clinging precariously to the cracking biomatter. A necessary sacrifice for a true, lasting peace. Atticus shouts back, his face a mask of fanatical determination. He is not merely trying to silence your plans. He is trying to stop the chaos of the world from unraveling completely, by any means necessary. You realize, with a sudden, chilling clarity, that this is the core of his misunderstanding, and perhaps your own. He sees the chaos of the War of Wordplay, the semantic shifts, the unpredictable nature of things like the pocket, as a terminal disease. His peace is a radical, extreme form of order, a desperate attempt to impose stillness before everything dissolves into pure, unadulterated silliness, as foretold by the existential punchline. He is trying to save the world, not destroy it. He believes the ultimate peace is found in an absolute, unyielding stasis. The realization hits you with the force of a semantic explosion. Your anthropomorphizing, your deep empathy for growing things, had blinded you to his true desperation, to the depth of his fear for a world unraveling. He wasn't a villain seeking to destroy. He was a desperate protector seeking to preserve, albeit in a way that felt like death to you. The ground beneath Atticus's feet, the mosaic of discarded punchlines, suddenly gives way. A massive sinkhole opens, belching forth a torrent of garbled puns and fractured metaphors, a physical manifestation of the uncontrolled language spilling from the War of Wordplay. Atticus stumbles, nearly falling into the churning linguistic abyss. The pocket, Rowan screams, pointing to the leather pouch around your neck. It's reacting to the dimensional instability. It's drawing in the chaos. You look down at the pocket. It's pulsating, expanding, and contracting, a vortex of unpredictable energy. As the sinkhole opens wider, drawing in the semantic debris, the pocket seems to strain, its contents churning. Atticus, regaining his footing, lunges for the pocket again, his eyes wide with a new kind of desperation. Give it to me, root tender. I will contain it. I will seal the breach. You hesitate, your mind racing. He wants to contain the chaos. You, a root tender, want to cultivate, to guide, to find symbiosis even in the unpredictable. But the world is breaking. You glimpse the curdled milk sky through the collapsing roof of the sector, and for a terrifying second, you see not sky, but a vast, cosmic joke unraveling. The pocket of infinite non-sequiturs, violently agitated, suddenly ejects a torrent of objects. A flock of miniature, bickering teacups, a cascade of perfectly preserved existential dread, and a dozen more bad poetry reciting roasted chickens, all flying directly towards the semantic sinkhole. The sinkhole, as if overwhelmed by the sheer, unbridled absurdity, begins to shrink, the torrent of garbled language subsiding, the churning sounds quieting. The pocket, having apparently reordered the chaos with its own brand of unpredictable non-sequiturs, shrinks back to its normal size, still vibrating faintly. The realization dawns on you. The pocket isn't just a source of random objects. It's a conduit, a countermeasure. It processes chaos by introducing more chaos, by overwhelming the semantic instability with its own brand of nonsensical, yet strangely effective antilogic. It's not meant to be contained, Atticus, you shout, scrambling back down the crumbling wall. It's meant to be used, to absorb the overflow. Atticus stares at the now calmer sinkhole, then at the pocket, a flicker of something akin to awe, or perhaps horrified comprehension in his flint eyes. A device of counter-chaos, he murmurs, his voice stripped of its usual authority. The sector, though damaged, holds. The immediate threat of collapse has passed. Rowan and the bioregulators stare, stunned. The clammy warmth of the bazaar returns, now a familiar comfort rather than a source of unease. We need to work together, you say, extending a hand to Atticus. Your piece of stillness, my piece of growth. They both seek to save the world, but from different ends. We need a balance. We need to guide the chaos, not merely suppress it, or it will always find a way to erupt. Atticus looks at your outstretched hand, then at the pocket, then back at you. For a long moment, he says nothing. The icy dryness around him softens, subtly blending with the clammy warmth, creating a strange, neutral temperature. He takes your hand, his grip surprisingly firm. Balance, he repeats, the word sounding foreign, almost fragile on his tongue. Perhaps there is another way to peace. The aftermath is a whirlwind of frantic activity. Rowan, ever the diplomat, quickly takes charge, calming the bioregulators and spinning the incident as an innovative, albeit unorthodox, stress test of the bioarchitectural integrity, with a surprising new anti-semantic destabilization device at its core. Her gilded courtship alliance, against all odds, survives, strengthened by the perceived resolution of the crisis. And your siblings' materiel requisitions are not only reinstated, but prioritized, given the demonstrated fragility of reality itself. Atticus chuckles, no longer the unyielding stone singer, stands by your side, his demeanor subtly changed. He doesn't smile, but the harsh lines around his mouth have softened. He helps you begin the arduous task of repairing Sector Beta. His hands, once poised to calcify, now carefully guiding the growing biomatter. His understanding of structure, surprisingly complementary to your knowledge of growth. He still advocates for stability, but now with a nuanced appreciation for the dynamic, living forces that contribute to it. He even admits, in a low, almost reluctant whisper, that the existential punchline might not be an endpoint of meaninglessness, but merely a pivot point for a grander, more absurd joke. Your phosphorescent lichen, now freed from the fear of pruning, flourishes in the repaired sector, its glow a vibrant beacon of hope. You learn to prune not to suppress, but to guide, to ensure healthy, sustainable growth, a necessary act of tending that no longer feels like betrayal. You find a new balance in your approach, honoring both the inherent sentience of the flora and the practical needs of the architectural biomatter. The War of Wordplay doesn't end overnight, but it changes. With Atticus's new understanding and your innovative use of the pocket, the strategic deployment of clever puns and elaborate double entendres no longer poses such a critical threat to reality. The pocket, now seen as a crucial tool for semantic dampening, becomes a point of collaboration. It is taken to the front lines, and under your careful guidance, it is used to absorb the most destructive semantic overflows, its chaotic output nullifying the enemy's linguistic attacks. Your sibling, a frontline combat engineer, sends you a message, brief and to the point, materiel effective. Less chaos, keep tending. A small, warm glow spreads through your chest at their words. Rowan, her alliance secured, dedicates herself to establishing a new verbal recursion accord, one that acknowledges the power of language while seeking to channel it constructively, rather than suppress it. The Gilded Courtship Chronicle evolves, embracing not just political alliances, but also a deeper understanding of the world's inherent dynamism. The Whispering Bazaar, though still a riot of impossible wares and absurdities, feels different. The ground underfoot, the mosaic of discarded punchlines, still yields, but it no longer feels quite so fragile. The peculiar temperature fluctuations still persist, but they are no longer quite so disorienting, becoming a comforting pulse, a reminder of the world's vibrant, unpredictable heart. And you, the root tender, find yourself transformed. You still anthropomorphize plant life, but now with a wisdom born of experience. You understand that true symbiosis isn't just about cultivating growth, but about understanding the inherent chaos, the necessary cycles of pruning and rebirth, of stillness and vibrant life. You have faced the existential punchline and found not emptiness, but a deeper, more profound meaning in the act of tending, in the conscious choice to cultivate beauty and connection, even in a universe that might, at its core, be an elaborate, cosmic joke. Your secret grove in the canopy commons remains your sanctuary, a place of profound personal connection, but you no longer guard it jealously. Instead, you occasionally invite Atticus Chuckles there, where he studies the ancient trees, no longer seeking to turn them to stone, but to understand the deep, slow rhythm of their unchanging endurance amidst constant growth. He sometimes even murmurs new, less calcifying stone songs to the ancient biomatter, words of stability that respect the inherent life within. One day, you find yourself back at the umbrella-headed vendor's stall, the chirps and whistles of his voice now a comforting background. You glance at your pocket of infinite non-sequiturs, still hanging around your neck, now humming with a quiet, contented energy. You reach inside, not out of fear or desperation, but out of curiosity. You pull out a single, perfectly formed, phosphorescent flower, glowing with an internal light. It is beautiful, vibrant, and utterly unique. As it rests in your palm, it doesn't recite bad poetry or transform into existential dread. Instead, it simply glows, radiating a calm, steady warmth that banishes the clammy feeling and the icy dryness, settling the air around you into a perfect, harmonious balance. It is a flower that speaks not in words, but in the quiet, undeniable language of meaning, found not despite the chaos, but within it. It is a symbol of a peace born of both stillness and growth, a true symbiosis, cultivated in a world forever shaped by the ambulatory guffaw of existence. And for the first time in a very long time, you truly smile.